When you're inserting edge loops, you can toggle your options. The little box always like gives you options for whichever tool you're selecting to figure out how you want, telling it how exactly do you want it to insert edge loops. I'm just going to like use something like basic and simple, equal distance. In sometimes you might want like equal distances. Sometimes you might want something else. It's all situational. So yeah, keep that in mind whenever you're creating your edges. Now, after you've got all your edges pulled out, I'm going to delete the back side. Now, this part of the finger is going to attach to the palm of the hand eventually. It's also going to attach to like all the other digits in your hand. Well, eventually. Now, the reason why I divided it up in this specific particular manner is to accommodate for all of the different edges in order to try and accommodate for the way the finger bends. You've got to be strategic about where you're placing your edges. You need to place edges in areas that accommodate for the movement for your figure. You gotta place edges where there's a change in the plane direction. So since the finger's got like joints in these particular areas, I'm gonna stick more edge loops in there. And there's like gonna be like a slight change in the plane direction in these other areas, so I'll add an edge there. Now, if you study the anatomy of fingers of the hand, you'll notice that it kind of like goes from big to small, kind of like so. So you can use the soft selection tool in order to create a soft selection that'll move multiple objects, multiple polygons, multiple vertices, multiple whichever level that you've got selected. The shortcut for that is V, I think, or was it B? No, V snaps. B's the soft select. If you don't know the shortcut, what you can do is double click the move tool, and that should give you a menu for all of your moving tool options. It looks like a little radiant thing. Now that you've got like your nice shape and whatnot, you're gonna have to like make your boxy finger look more organic. And I'll do that by pulling in some of the edges, some of the sides, some of the corners, kind of like so, until it's like nice and smooth and organic looking. And I'll like bend the fingers, trying to accommodate for like the anatomy of an actual finger. I'm trying to mimic the way an actual finger would be shaped. So there are like areas like here, here, and here where the area where the finger would kind of like dip down, and then there are areas where the finger dips up. And what you should do essentially is like grab a bunch of reference or actually study anatomy, the anatomy of the human hand, the anatomy of human fingers, to figure out like how to like accommodate for all these various forms. So use basic polygon editing techniques. You right click in order to like access the menu of like the different levels of the polygons, of the vertices, of the edges, and whatever. Then you select them, just kind of like in Max, and you move them around until it forms the shape of whatever it is that you're trying to create. And a lot of this stuff is like grunt work, actually. After like explaining like the basics, a lot of the rest of the stuff is like grunt work. Now the reason why like the hand, the finger is shaped like this, kinda, is because, well, like the bones, the finger's bones, mostly take up like the top parts, right? I really should have drawn a picture here, but they mostly take up the top parts, right? They curve over, kind of like a bridge. And all those parts that dip down, that's actually like padding, that's like underneath the bone. So the fingers kind of end up taking up this kind of shape. Now, so there's like, you've got your extrude tool, you've got your add edge loops tool, you've got you can like select different levels of your object in order to modify the different levels, to move the different polygons around and whatnot. You also gotta take into consideration the smooth and sharp edges. So what are smooth edges and what are sharp edges? Well, the smooth edges and sharp edges, they're actually similar to 3D Max's smoothing groups. Now the way you access the smooth edges and the sharp edges are, you go over to your normals menu, and you should, this menu up here, and it should give you an option for smooth edges and for hard edges. And all that does is it takes all of your edges, right, and assigns them as being smooth or hard. Now, any edge that has been assigned as a hard edge, it's gonna look sharp. Any edge that's assigned as a smooth edge is gonna look smooth once it's rendered. So now that we have our nice finger shape and everything is a smooth edge, what we need to do is bend this finger, because when you're modeling something, you should position all the joints and the limbs and everything in a relaxed state, relaxed position. So that way, when you rig it and move it, then the polygons will not distort as much, and it will end up looking better. So in order to do that, in order to accommodate for that in this instance, I will select a bunch of polygons with my soft selection, and I will rotate it into a relaxed bent position for a finger. But the problem here is your whatchamacallins. I forgot what you call this thing. The thing that you use to rotate with, wherever you call it. It's always in the center of wherever it is that you've got selected. You need to change the position of that thing. Now, in order to do that, what you do is you press the insert key, and that lets you manipulate the position of your gizmo thingy, your transforming gizmo. So you position that gizmo over to the joint, and then you use the rotate